Want to achieve network marketing success? Then you're in the right company. Hello, and welcome to Leave Nothing to Chance, hosted by networking marketing giant John Solleder. Learn everything you need to know about the network marketing space from somebody who's actually done it. Join us every week for front row seats as we feature some of the finest and most successful personalities in network marketing. Leave nothing to chance. Join us now.
Wow. Well, we have a very special 2-week podcast that we're going to be conducting starting today. And of course, next Tuesday as well. And it's just beyond words who I'm going to welcome to the show here today. And that is Bill Nash. Bill has been a songwriter. He's been an influencer for well over 60 years, not only in Nashville, but throughout the country music scene, throughout the United States and the world for that matter. Knows everybody who's anybody. Bill's known over the last 60 years. So, and I also want to welcome my colleague and friend Keith Hooper, of course, who's going to co-host. And this is going to be a privilege. So Bill, welcome to the call, first of all.
Welcome to the call. You know what? I finally got it. The third time. Thanks for having me on. I love hanging out with you guys, and we've had some great conversations in the last few days. And of course, that guy down there, that Keith Hooper guy, I've known him a long time. I can tell you some stuff on him, but so he's got to be good to me.
Well, I'll tell you, we could have a whole show about Keith Hooper. There's no question about that.
This is the same as when you were in NBC Studios, right? I mean, we're right there with that level, right?
Yes.
NBC Studios and Mercury Records.
Everything you say to me creates a memory. When you talk about NBC, I was in New York City, and Gene Rayburn, the host of the Match Game, is the guy that discovered my family and took us to Columbia Records. So if you fast forward that to 1970, when I signed with Capitol Records and became a pop singer instead of the gospel singer, instead of the country singer, now I'm a pop singer, and I'm in L.A., and I'm on a promotion tour for Capitol Records. And we go to New York, and we called Mr. Rayburn. And you know where he took us? To NBC Radio. So when I got there that morning, guess who was there in the studio? That is one of my greatest regrets that we didn't have cell phones in those days, much less a camera in our cell phone. And there was Neil Diamond. Standing there, just like we would walk past each other in the hall, and said, "Bill, I'd like you to meet Neil Diamond." Man, I'm starstruck already, man. And the guy had on those tight jeans that had the pockets in the front with the flared bottoms, and he had them slit, on each side where they go down by your shoe. Fine, we used to do that. That's a fun thing for showbiz. And he was smoking a cigarette. And they introduced him to me and shook his hand. He said, "Yeah, nice to meet you." That was it. I wish I had a great thing to say. "Oh, Bill, yes, I'm so glad to meet you," blah, blah, blah. But that wasn't what happened. It was really nice to me. It was very friendly. And then I got interviewed that day on NBC. That's worldwide radio. So Mr. Rayburn was a great friend of mine. I'm sorry when we lost him. He was a wonderful friend.
So, Bill, let me ask you this. To your left shoulder there.
Yeah.
I see Miss Reba McEntire, and I know that you wrote the song. They asked about you, along with your wife, Kim. Why don't you tell that story, because it's remarkable, and also explain a little bit about what's to your left there with the picture of Reba.
Well, I've had a lot of people ask me about how do you get a song to a major star like that, and it's not an easy process. So, but yet in all, let me just say, I think about this thing in a spiritual term, because I feel that it's God that gave me the talent to write. I had to develop it on my own and work on it and try again and write those dumb songs that you're always going to write as a neophyte writer. But we did all of that, Kim and I. My wife, Kim, is my writing partner, and she's an incredible lyricist as well. She has tunes, too, but I have more tunes. I have a tune for everything. When we travel, we're on the road, and I see a signboard go by. I got a tune for that words on that sign. And most of the time, I can make them rhyme. See how that just happened? The sign and rhyme, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's... If the people are looking at this, they go, "Then that guy had a hit song." I'm thinking that. But all the silly songs are in there along with the hit songs, along with just fun, things that you do. But so what happened, Kim and I had moved to Nashville, and we were writing, and we had a couple of different writing positions. But to our good fortune, we did not realize it at the time. We were between writing contracts at Sony, which is the largest publisher in the world, thanks to Michael Jackson. And that's a whole other story I won't get into. But there we were between deals, fixing to sign a new deal. At that time, we recorded a song that we had come up with an idea. Now here, if your audience is listening, how do you come up with an idea for a song? I can't explain that, but like I found out from a friend of mine who was he went to college and was taking a music appreciation course, and the professor said, I can't teach you how to get an idea for a song. I can't teach you how to write a song, but I can teach you how to arrange a song once it's written. And that's like, okay, you're getting it third hand. That ability to create a song is a God-given talent. And so you work on it. So Kim and I had been writing for a little while, 3 or 4 years, something like that together, although we'd written separately. And we had this idea that I got one day. We were in Nashville at a place called the Stockyards. And it's where the real cattle stockyards used to be. Then there's a guy that bought the place and turned it into a restaurant, and down in the basement, it was a nightclub, a big nightclub. And all the most famous stars from all over the world have come there, and they've signed above that stage. It's just replete with autographs. So I went to see a friend of mine. We'd moved to Nashville, we were living there, and a friend of mine named Tommy came into town with his band. So that was when they had cigarettes in the clubs still. So this will tell you back in the 90s. So I sat Kim way in the back because she's allergic to smoke. Imagine that, we're singing in nightclubs and she's allergic to smoke. So you got to stay on stage and then go to your dressing room on a break. But I sat her down back there and I went up and said hi. And when I came back to the table, now this is the honest God truth. I said, Kim, they asked about you. And she said, they asked about, we almost said it together once again. They asked about you. We wrote it on a napkin. And you hear those stories. But it's a true story. That's what happened. We wrote it down. They asked about you. On the way home, we wrote the chorus. Well, in the next few days, we were still there's an inspiration that goes along with songwriting. And we were still under that inspiration. We wrote the first verse. Then we let it sit for a while and then longer, and then we would go back to it once in a while, and the second verse was elusive. And if you've ever studied songwriters, they will tell you the second verse is the hardest one to write. It's not as inspired as the first one that got you going on it. So we had a friend, and there's a guy named Freddie Weller who used to play lead guitar for Paul Revere and the Raiders. If you got some older fans out there that know who that group from the 60s were the big group. And Mark Lindsay of Paul Revere and the Raiders had a great relationship with Columbia Records. So he took Freddie Weller from L.A. to Nashville, introduced him, and got him a record deal. And that's how he started. He had some hit records. And he re-recorded some of the old Joe South tunes that were pop hits. He made them country hits. So we were introduced to him through some folks, and we had threatened to write together. And finally I said, Kim, let me call Freddie, because this second verse of this thing that we're recording, in the back of our minds, it was like, I know that Reba's fixing to cut an album, not sure when, and on, and it's a greatest hits album. And I know y'all surely know the difference in the greatest hits album and just a regular album. The greatest hits will have every song on there is a million seller. And so she was only looking for 2 songs. And everybody in Nashville, New York, and L.A. was shooting for this album. They were all writing to get on that album because they knew how significant it would be. So Kim and I, with Freddie Weller, we wrote They Asked About You. We finished the second verse. He had some good input that sparked all of us, and we ended up finishing it, and we demoed it at a studio. And we found out when she was recording through our, we're in the business, so that's how we have that channel in. So I took it by her office. This is before she created the new offices on 17th Avenue, which are incredible. You should Google that one, because it's got even the basement parking garage is air conditioned and heated. So when she would drive from her country home 40 minutes away to her office down on 17th Avenue South, she would pull underneath there, and it would be heated in the winter, which is the big deal. I don't know, it's pretty hot in the summer, too. You pull in there to her parking space in her big old Suburban. This little tiny woman comes in and driving this huge SUV, and so she parks in there. But anyway, but the previous offices, I go, and there was a sign once you walk in the front door of the old offices, and there was a basket over there, and there was a paper sign saying, place tapes here with an arrow pointing down to the basket. It was homemade, man. And I'm thinking, is this how you pitch a major star a song? I don't know, but that's what her crew, her people that do her publishing and all, that's what they set up. When I dropped the tape in there of this song, I thought to myself when I turned around, I'll never forget thinking, fat chance of that. Fat chance of that. Hey, listen, you got to have faith. You can't do this business without faith because you're going to have so many more rejections of your songs than you are people that take your songs. And every song you write is not a hit, even though your mother says it is. It's not for some reason. But I walked out of there and went home. And it was raining that day. And I told Kim, well, I pitched it in the basket. And it was like, oh, that's such a great song for Reba. We thought it right away. We even tailored the into the chorus where, and all the walls around my heart. We could hear her doing her little curves. And that word all was where you can really let your voice ring. And we could hear it even before she even recorded it, but we hadn't heard it yet. So a month goes by, and we get a call from Tony Brown's office. Tony Brown is her record producer. Tony Brown's secretary said, Bill, would you please bring a copy of that song they asked about you by our office? Tony needs to listen to it. Man, you know what? Even just that thought of, oh my God, and I think the way the music row is so close together there, I think I was there in 10 minutes. I know it's a little bit longer than that, but I showed up and I'm so excited and I can't hardly breathe. And that's only just when the thought I might even have a cut. So I go in and there's the receptionist. Well, she's used to all these people coming in because Tony's so famous. And I said, here's a song from Bill and Kim. And I was so calm, at least I thought I was. I turned around and walked out and I went, well, maybe a little chance of that since we got that far. And a month later, we get a call from Cliff Williamson. And he says, is this Bill Nash? Yeah. Are you writer of the song they asked about? Yeah, my wife and I, we're songwriters. Would you like to come hear how Reba cut your song? I went, what? It was like, what? Now, I'm in the front of the house. I ran to the back bedroom, and Kim was sound asleep. We were still on our nightclub hours. And I just opened the door, and there she is, sound asleep. And I said, Reba cut our song. And she's out of a dead sleep. She popped up and says, what? And I said, Reba cut our song. And she went, ah! I was kind of like that. I mean, what would you do? And Cliff Williams is hanging on the phone, hearing all this going. I'm not sure what he thought, but he was probably used to that because when you get a Reba cut, you got something. And he said, well, tomorrow she's going to be in the office. Would you like to come hear it? I said, amen. What time? And I think 11 o'clock was said at a time like that. And we kept our little boys out of school. I have two sons, and they were 8 and 10. And I kept them out of school. The whole family went down to Reba's office, and she was so gracious to us. I mean, I wish the whole world could meet her on a one-on-one basis like that, because she was so herself and so relaxed and in it, and she welcomed us. And then Cliff took us into the listening room, and they played the song. And and if y'all get a chance to listen to it, listen to that word, and all the walls around my heart. She rang it, and we cried. I'm telling you, she nailed it, they call it. She nailed it, and it was so beautiful. And it ended up on that album, you see them back there, Greatest Hits, MCA Records, Greatest Hits, Volume 2. Because it's the Greatest Hits album, it is still in circulation. You can still buy it. On her website, it shows that it has sold over 11 million albums, and we're on that diamond album. Now, I think that's her only diamond album. I'm not sure. It could be more, but we didn't see any more on her website. But we are just so thankful to God that listen, I can't even tell you that if you want to know some personal stuff, when you go to Nashville to write and you have such competition of so many great songwriters that already have had hits and they're still pitching their songs, it can be discouraging to a neophyte writer. But you got to believe in yourself. You got to know that you've got something the world hadn't heard. And hopefully you haven't just done, in our book, I have a new book out, by the way, and it talks about songwriting a bit. We even have a DVD I forgot to mention to you guys. It's called Say It With a Song, and it was done by one of the producers of the 700 Club, and it's very well done, and they took us to Nashville, and we went around. We talked about things that could be in songwriting. But you just really, well, we're going to talk about Chris Christopherson in a few minutes because I'm the first artist to cut any of his music. He was a janitor when I met him. That he was living in abandoned buildings in Nashville. He didn't have money for shoes and clothes. When I met him at Mercury Records, I know Keith has referenced Mercury. That was my first venture out from my gospel singing family because my brother got drafted, so the Nash family trio went by the wayside. And I got to Nashville as a single artist. I got discovered while I was still in college at the University of Houston here in Houston. And so I just, those things that come about with someone like Chris, I have remorse that when he crossed his leg at the first meeting with me and him in our producer's office, Jerry Kennedy, a very famous country record producer, he had holes in the bottom of his hush puppy shoes. And I should have known, because I thought myself, being selfishly inclined at 24 years old, I'm thinking, man, where's those hit songwriters Jerry Kennedy told me I was going to have writing? This guy can't be successful. He's got on the most washed out jeans and T-shirt I've ever seen, and he's got holes in his shoes. And yet he became the Shakespeare of country music. That's what they call him now. So,
Bill, let me ask you, okay, because, you're laying some stories out here. We want people to understand this because, it's that storytelling and that persistence. And you made a comment, that you're going to pitch that song, but not everybody's going to hear it. Not everybody's going to understand it. And I know you were extremely successful in the network marketing world. And that's what, the podcast here with John is about people in network marketing. And, we talk about the dreaming and understanding, and not everybody's going to say yes. And, that's a powerful, powerful process of dreaming and understanding that not everybody's going to say yes. Right, Bill?
That's right, man. You can write the song you think is the greatest hit in the world, and your mama loves it. She even cried when she heard it. And then you take it. I've been to pitch sessions. Let me tell you, man, first of all, it's one heck of a process getting in front of a producer, because those guys are inundated on a daily basis with people who have the next hit song for their artist. And so you finally get that meeting, and if you've ever done this, and you guys obviously haven't because y'all are not in the music thing like me, but I have. I sat in front of a really famous producer one day, and man, that first song, I led with my best song for his group. And he played it. He got to about the first half of the first verse, took it off, said, "What else you got?" I was like, first of all, it hit me in the chest. What else you got? I'm expecting him to get on his knees and say, "Can we please cut this song?" And it went the opposite right then. Oh, well, let's see. And I did. I had enough sense to have 4 or 5 more lined up, and each one of them turned out to be like that. What else you got? Well, Bill, I'll give you a call. We're looking for something. And they'll go through things trying not to hurt your feelings because they really don't like rejection themselves, and they know what it feels like as a writer to be rejected. And I went, I got in there going, yippee, and I walked out like, barely making it out of the office, and the receptionists all recognize this. They recognize the guy who's all gung-ho, and then when he's leaving, like his tail between his legs, and he's slowly walking back out to his car. But you know what? Let me tell you something. What you do is you keep believing that those are the greatest songs that the guy could ever choose, and you get yourself another meeting as soon as possible. And go pitch it again, and go pitch it again. And that's what Christopherson did with For the Good Times. And here's an inside note for you. They said he was way ahead of his time because he used the word body in the song. And that song that I cut first, it was his first major cut, and I was the first artist on a major label to cut his songs. And it said, hold your warm and tender body close to mine. In 1967, when that song was released, they called it a porno song. Can you believe that? I mean, people out are shocked. What? They say everything in a song now. All the expletives are in at that point. And man, you know what? That song got up into the 30s and people were calling the station and they objected to the warm and tender body line and Mercury Records pulled it out. And so the next year, you want to hear this next story about Christofferson?
Yeah.
Next year, the next 6 months I was there. And he was such an honest guy, and he still is. He's a Rhodes Scholar. He's incredibly intelligent. The next 6 months, I went back to do another session. And then Jerry Kennedy would tell him when I was coming to town, and he would come and we'd go have lunch. And we had a great time. I said, listen, somebody that intelligent, you just enjoy being around them and talking to them because they have something to add that teaches you something out of everything that's going on in the world. So we were sitting there having lunch. I said, Chris, I need another song, do another session. He said, you know how Chris talks with that gravelly voice? He said, Bill, I ain't got nothing for you now. I don't know another songwriter that would have been that honest. They would have pulled out whatever they had, but he knew what my voice took. So he passed. So the next 6 months later, I come back, we have lunch again, the same conversation. Here's what he said this time. He said, Bill, I got a song I got to finish, but I got to get real drunk to do it. I said, what would that take? And he said, 6-pack of beer. So I pulled out $3. I was so generous. And I gave him $3. He disappeared that morning at 10 o'clock in the morning from Music Row down to Printer's Alley. If you've ever been in Nashville, that's all the way downtown. But that was such an inspiring place to him because that's where a lot of the stars played in Printer's Alley. And I told him, I said, our session's at 2 o'clock, and we're going to wait as long as we can before we walk across the street to Columbia Studios. I was recording in the same studio I did with my family. Now I'm on Mercury Records, okay? And they call me the new Roy Orbison. That's what they called me in those days. So I said, got to have it by then, man. So Jerry Kennedy and I had listened to songs. We picked them all for the session. And we thought, we were looking at the clock wondering, will Chris really make it back? And at 5 minutes to 2, when we were fixing to walk out, here he comes. And he came in the door. He said, Bill, I got the song. He was drunk as Hooter Brown. And you remember Hooter Brown? No, I'm just kidding. So anyhow, he sits down and he plays. See if you recognize this song, John. Take the ribbon from your hair, take it loose and let it fall. Lay it soft upon my skin like the shadows on the wall. Come and lay down by my side till the early morning light. All I'm asking is your time. Here's a hook. Help me make it through the night.
Sure do.
I almost fell down on the floor. I don't care what's right or wrong. I don't try. And he went on through the rest of it. I said, man, Chris, that's a smash. And Jerry Kennedy he beat his hands on his desk and went, it's a smash. It's a smash. We went across the street. We cut it within 15 minutes of him writing it. So dig this. I got home and my draft notice was waiting for me. The Vietnam War was calling my name. I lost my contract at Mercury. Still makes me tear up. Just wondering what could have been, what might have been. Y'all remember that song? That's a great song, but what might have been. I don't know, but I know that God is directing my life for his purposes. And so I took it like that, but you know what I came away with? A lifelong friendship with one of the greatest songwriters of all time, who also put together the Four Horsemen. He, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, and your audience is going to know exactly who that fourth guy is, Merle Haggard. They wrote together, they sang together, and I got to go see them one night here when they came to the Houston area. And Chris came backstage out to see me and shake my hand and hug my neck again. And man, that's been worth a whole lot. And I also know one last thing, and I'll quit talking about that song. But For the Good Times didn't go away, as you guys know. But what happened was, since Chris didn't have the money to make a demo tape to pay for the studio and the musicians and all, he took my record to Ray Price and played it for him. There's a story that goes behind it. Actually, Ray had a guy that picked music for him. And Ray called him back on Music Row and said, no, I don't hear it from me. He said, listen to it again. You've got to listen to that song one more time. So Ray hangs up. And thank God he did, right, Keith? I saw your reaction. He listened to For the Good Times one more time. And Ray Price called. Ray Pennington was the guy's name. I'm telling you all the trivia, man. This is Nashville stuff. And Ray Pennington picked Ray Price's songs for years, picked many hit songs. And Ray Price told Ray Pennington, said, you're right, man. And you know what? That song brought Ray Price's career back up to the front. They sold over 1 million copies of it. And I've always been proud that I was part of that because I'm a big Ray Price fan. I love Ray Price's music. Sorry we lost him, but what a great singer.
So, Bill, let me ask you. So when you're looking at all of this stuff that you've done, and you look at, many, many years of doing this, but, you had huge success in network marketing as well.
I did.
You had huge success with that, but it was all about dreaming what possibilities were, right? That dream. And I think, for the show here, people need to, in these times, that you may not be aware of it, but there's some stress in this world, my man. There's some stress going on right now. People are having a hard time imagining their lives being better. So what would you say to them, Bill?
Well, the first thing that we have an entity, as you see on my shirt, it's called Champions Kids Camp, and it's for children who have been through trauma. They are the victim of an accident or an illness like cancer or a personal loss. And this is the same analogy that we're making here as we talk about these children who are 8 to 12 years old and been through this kind of trauma. It's like if you can bring them hope, that hope will keep them alive because then they will have faith. You got to have hope first, that there is faith, and the faith will see you through. But it's the same thing in business. Listen, man, I presented, when I was in multi-level, we achieved a quite high level there and made a lot of money doing it. But I'm going to tell you, you got to go through everybody that tells you no, and they say that. You got to go through the no's to get that one yes. And I was a little bit more successful at recruiting, and I would like to toot my horn there. I can only tell you that people will get involved with you, but then they don't all stay. So you have to keep recruiting because you're pouring it in at the top. Half of them are going to come in, they're going to get your product, and they're going to start on it, whatever it is, and on and on. And then, I don't know, life takes them another direction, or they get a different deal, or they were looking for something to happen. The minute they signed up, in 10 days, they're going to get a big check, and they don't. And, anything you do, it's going to take some groundwork. You got to lay some foundational stuff, and you lean on your upline for their credibility, and you lean on the company that's producing the product. Who are they? What's this? And if you've got that all in place, you are way ahead of the game. And if you believe in what you're pitching, just keep pitching it. Just don't let the no's. When you get a no, go yes, because they told me that 1 out of 10 will not do this. You're one of my 9. So now that I got y'all done, the next one's going to be a 1. Who knows? And who knows will stay. But I created some great friendships through that network marketing, and I've seen what that can do for people. It can absolutely, if you'll stay with it, it can make you very wealthy, as well as present a great product that you will enjoy yourself. It's a health-giving product. The product that Keith introduced me to has made a difference in my life because of the threat that I felt from my health. And now I no longer have that threat. So I'm very thankful.
Well, let me ask you, because with that process of, Charlie Tremendous Jones said you'll be the same 5 years from now as you are today, except for the people that you meet, the books that you read. Is there any better way to meet people than through network marketing and to leverage that into the rest of your life?
Well, you know what? The network marketing actually creates a way for you to become lifelong friends, as opposed to, as you and I know, you'll meet friends at a networking meeting, which is a good thing. I think you should always look in your area for network marketing. There's going to be several people there, and they're recruiting each other, I know, but it will hone your skills of what your product is and what your line is. If you keep repeating it, it'll come back second nature. So I really don't know of a better way to do that. Now, I know that a lot of people will try to recruit you at church even. You know, remember that story I told you, Keith, about Johnny Cash and going to church and coming to the altar to kneel to pray, and a guy pulls up beside him and goes, "Hey, Johnny, I got this song I got to pitch to you." Not at church, not at church. But you can make friends at church, and you can say, "Hey, I got something I want to talk to you about. Can I call you later?" And that's what I would do. And then I would call and I'll see if I couldn't, let me come by for a few minutes. I'd never do it over the phone. Let me come by for a few minutes. Be great to see you again. And actually, if you really care about the person, that makes it even better. So that whether they get involved with you or not, you've still got a friend. And let me tell you, down the line, when they see your success, you can come back to them and say, "Man, I know you didn't get in with me at that time, but it's still a good time. I still believe in us working together and doing this. I believe we can be successful." And they, your success will talk them into it. I've seen that happen many times.
So, Bill, let me ask you a follow-up question to that. So,
you're going to get a question in edgewise other than Keith, you mean?
Yeah, it's my show, but that's okay. That's all right. I'm used to him taking on. That's more than good.
Partners.
Along those lines, Keith shared with me, I guess your father-in-law was involved in the industry also, in network marketing?
That's actually how my mother, she was the drive behind the Nash Family Trio, which ended us up in New York City on Columbia Records with Gene Rayburn and then Johnny Cash's producer in Nashville the next year. And when my brother got drafted, it devastated her. But she never stopped doing stuff. And that she had gotten involved in a company, and she was after me for 1 solid year. But I had this large sphere of people that followed me in my music career. So she knew the power of that. And it took her a year to get me involved in it. But I finally did, just to get her not to keep bugging me. And I got hooked on the deal. It was like, oh, man, I love the people here and the convention. If you have a product and they have a quarterly convention or whatever it is, or a weekly meeting, go and attend and invest in yourself. You're investing time and you're investing money. It's going to cost you, but hey, that's part of what it takes in business.
He shared with me, though, that in that experience, there was a meeting, I guess a breakout session type of meeting, where there were 6,000 people for a sit-down dinner, and I believe Pat Boone was the MC or host or entertainment. Tell us that story a little bit, because once again, to Keith's point and question, getting people to dream again, because of everything that's gone on in the world and our country and everything else the last 18 months.
Agreed.
Great story.
The Proverbs says a man with no dream will perish, because when you don't have a dream and you don't have anything to work for, what is there left? That's where hope comes in, which builds faith. So following that old adage is so important. You must have a dream. You must pursue it and see, if you say a little prayer and ask God, what is it that I really love to do? And I've seen some guys start taking guitar lessons that were like 60, 70 years old. Why? Their dream was to play guitar. And you know what? Whether they ever play like some of the famous guys, Chet Atkins or anything, they're playing for themselves, and it is a dream. But the guy, my father-in-law that I'm referencing, this guy came from totally broke, and he just learned his people skills. He learned how to think of the other fellow and get involved with them and help them build their business, which built his business, and he did it on a national basis. And I learned so much from him about, this is a good adage for our audiences. People don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. And if you really are doing this because you care not only about yourself, but about them, that there's a coupling there that's a spiritual thing almost. Work together, and you add another person, and you add another person. Pretty soon you've got a group of 5 or 6 that are all believing like that, and you help each other, you encourage each other. You meet once a week, you have coffee or dinner or whatever, or you just have a meeting and invite some friends, and it snowballs on you. That's what happened to us. And before we know it, a year or so later, we were pretty close. We were at a good level, let me just say that. And I was able to retire sort of from the 6-night-a-week nightclub business. I was still singing and traveling and touring, but it really gave me a great rest from that. And then we started, when you talk about, it wasn't just, I remember the function in Denver that we did for this. It was one of our regional functions that my father-in-law, I married his only daughter because she was so dang pretty. And then I come to find out she's a great songwriter. The people in Nashville that we worked with, they said, man, we can't believe what a great lyricist that she is. I said, well, she has tunes too, and she and I write together. And that's just one of those great blessings from God. But we did in Denver a sit-down dinner for 10,000 people, the largest number of people that convention center in Denver had ever hosted. And we filled up 3 hotels worth of people. And that just came from working the business we were in and staying in it and believing in it. It's your fire. Listen, you're on fire, right? Well, you're going to pass that to the next guy. He's not going to be quite as on fire as you, but he's on fire. And then the next guy, it kind of dwindles down till you get them to the function. And then all of a sudden you have people that, like, I remember Zig Ziglar coming and speaking at one of our functions. First time I'd ever heard the guy. I'd been in nightclubs, man. I didn't have time to go see Zig Ziglar. I didn't realize how successful I could become by just adopting some of the things he said. And man, that guy turned us all on with his words. Words are so important. You know that old saying, that poem that says, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Let me tell you, that's the worst poem I've ever heard, because words can kill you. You hear it on social media now. Words that are said in a wrong light or something. And you're right, John. We need people to have hope now. We need people to believe in themselves now. And they need to stay with what God laid out for America, man. I'm for God, family, and country in that order. And if we could get back to that, people, listen, the Lord Jesus said 2 things. Love the Lord thy God with all your heart, mind, and soul. Love your neighbor as yourself. Those are the 2 greatest things. And if you love your neighbor, you won't steal from him. You won't try to hurt him. You won't try to wish that you had all he had. Jealousy will disappear. It's just an incredible thing, just those 2 things. And I live by those. And I'm happy to do it, glad to do it. And it's encouraged me. When we were in Nashville, I even sold encyclopedias for a while, just like Willie Nelson did. Mm-hmm. I thought to myself, well, and I've met Willie twice now, and he signed my book. I'm involved in a book, by the way. Keith, I don't even know if I told you this. Clint Black. Anybody know who Clint Black is?
Yep.
Okay, so he and his brother Kevin started a charity. They did a coffee table book. They went to 200 concerts. And in fact, I think I have one behind me. This book is called Raising a Hand. If you look at the cover, you'll see the last picture taken of the Eagles. Of course, that's, John Henley, not John Henley, but the drummer, and I can't think of names now that you guys got me here going on. But look at so many. There's Dolly Parton, and there's the guy that's on The Voice. I wish I'd had my name. There's Merle Haggard, who's gone now. And there's Paul McCartney. There's George Strait. Is that good enough for you?
That's pretty good band right there.
Pretty good band. So let me ask you, Bill. So we're looking at this. So a couple of things, and we want to make sure. So Champions, there he is. There he is.
On page 179, can you believe Clint and Kevin included me in this 200 in the world of singer-songwriter entertainers? Well, I just wanted to say that's one of the things that comes about in the music business, y'all.
Well, I'll tell you how big a fan I am of Clint Black is when my wife and I got married many years ago, we had this song, When I Said I Do, was our wedding song. But Clint Black, like myself, because I'm a New Jersey guy, believe it or not, that loves country music. He was born in New Jersey, which most people don't know.
I didn't know that because he was raised right here in Katy, Texas.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know how he got down here. I'm sure his parents have a story on that. But Keith, I think Keith had a question for you there.
Well, we're coming up pretty close to the end of this particular segment of the program. But Bill, tell us a little bit about how Champions Kids Camp, because everybody needs to go there. ChampionsKidsCamp.org.
Yeah.
They need to go there, and they need to talk. They need to know what that is and what you and Kim are doing. And I think they can even get your book through that. Can they not? Get your book through there as well.
But yeah, I think you can see a copy of it up here on the shelf. I got everything in my office. It's not all really well done, but there's our book, Saint, Sinner, Singer.
Because you weren't always a gospel singer, and you weren't always a good old boy, a good guy like you are now. Because at some time you were in those honky tonk places, right?
Oh, my God. You know what? My first engineer, when I came to Houston, Texas, to go to the University of Houston in 1965, a year or so later, I was making my first record by myself. I was so used to singing with my family. You know, we were on the Grand Ole Opry and all that kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. So I'll go to this studio on Blair Street here in Houston, Bill Jones studio, and in the control room, they introduced me to my engineer. They said, Bill, this is Mickey Gilley. Mickey, this is Bill Nash. I said, hey, how you doing, Mickey? Nice to meet you. So I went in the studio and I sang this little song. And then when I came out, he said, hey, Bill, I'm singing out here at the Nestadale. Why don't you come on out and sit in with me in the band sometime? I said, all right, I'll do that. So a few Sundays later, I was off on Sundays. I sang 6 nights a week. On Sunday, I was off. So I went out there, and there was Mickey Gilley. Come to find out, he and Jerry Lee Lewis were cousins. No way. Are you kidding? Jerry Lee was there. Because I ended up on Mercury Records with Jerry Lee Lewis. And backstage, I got a Jerry Lee story that you all would love when you get to that.
We're going to get to that next segment, but I want to talk about.
I'm trying to get back to what you asked me. I'm sorry, we
got to get back to this Champions Kids Camp, because this is a big deal. This is something that's changing the kids' lives. This is something that's important to everybody that's listening here, because our legacies are what matter to us, and our children is what make our legacy. So maybe share how that came about and how people can get on that championskidscamp.org.
Okay, it started with my son, Billy, my oldest son, when he was 2.5. He's 38 now. He came down with leukemia, diagnosed here at Texas Children's Hospital in Houston, one of the greatest hospitals in the world. They come from all over the world to get treatment there. So we knew it was right. And that's where the trauma hit Kim and me. It was like they told us he had a 50-50 chance to live. We're going to do a 3-year program, and we're going to do our best to bring him through this. And they were losing more children in those days than they were saving. So Kim and I, as you can imagine, even with our hope in God and Jesus, we went into depression. We went into darkness. I didn't know what to do. So we went back to Billy's hospital room, and we held hands, and I prayed, Jesus, if you'll heal my son, I'll tell it everywhere I sing the rest of my life. I was trying to make a deal with God, and I know you can't do that, but I did the best I knew how. Because when the doctors can't help you anymore, where do you turn? I highly recommend folks turn to God. So we went home. They gave us 1 shot of chemo in the leg. We came back. We start the protocol. The first thing they do is take the blood work all again. So they did the fingers, what you call it, where they take blood there. They did blood out of his arm. They go back, and they stayed twice as long this time analyzing the blood. And that threw us into more trauma, more fear. And then the doctor comes in. He's got tears in his eyes, Dr. Starling. And I'm thinking, oh, my God, they're going to tell me that he's going to die tomorrow. You know, that's what I thought. And the doctor says, I don't know how to explain this to you. And he called me Mr. Nash, which scared me. Nobody calls me that. And he said, but your son's blood has gone normal. And I was on, what? Normal? It was silence like that. And there was a whole group of doctors in the room with all in their white jackets, which is what my little boy saw. The white jackets coming. He immediately went, no, talk to my daddy. And you know what? We started going, oh, my God, it's a miracle. And they said, we can't call it that. It's instant remission. But you got to stay in the program because it'll come back. Those cells are hiding in the spinal column, and they'll come back with vengeance. So he stayed in the program 3 years. He never was sick again. He never had a bad test again. He was honestly, absolutely, instantly healed. So at 3 years after it was over, we kept playing our nightclub gigs. We ended up, I'll tell you the Lakewood Church story later if you want to. We did go there, and it's become they're great friends of ours. But we moved to Nashville, and that's when we started our dream. A man with no dream would perish. Kim and I, we still wanted to write and sing. And we stayed there for 10 years, but then it was time to come back after the Reba hit, after the Dolly Parton, after these things are going on. there was something in us. Everything changes in Nashville every few years, and the young writers come in and the new things. So it came to us through a friend of ours. She said, if you'll come home and work with children and write some songs for them, we'll help you. So Jerry and Natalie Lewis said that. They had a business here in Houston. So we came home and we started doing our thing for kids who had been through trauma, like my son Billy. And we thought it was only going to be Texas children's cancer survivors. As it turns out, we got asked, well, my son came through a car accident and he was hurt, but he came through it, but it scared him. And I said, well, then he qualifies. Okay, bring him. So we had that going on. Then we had, well, my child we lost his daddy. Well, he was killed in Iraq, or he was killed on the job. And I said, well, then they've suffered trauma. They need to come to our camp. So now our camp is for anyone who has survived an accident, an illness like cancer, or a personal loss. 20 years now we've been doing this. And I don't know how many thousand children have been through our program where we present positive music. One of the best songs they love, because kids love to dance. And the age range is 8 to 12. And there's a song we wrote called We're All Different and It's All Right. If we could just get the politicians to agree, if we could just get the people from around the world to quit killing each other, we're all different and it's all right. And it's a rock and roller, man. We're all different and it's all right, it's all right, it's all right. That's how it's supposed to be. We're all different and it's all right. So, you want to hear it again? No, I'm just kidding.
That's great, Bill. But, you made a comment that there's so many kids that suffer, and they suffer quietly, and there's no place for them to go. There's nothing for them to do. And you and Kim and Champions Kids Camp and all the people have been affiliated with it. Everybody, those of that are old like me, remember AJ Foyt and, running that Indianapolis 500 and the stuff that was there. And he's part of that. And some of the celebrities that you have and all the stuff and that support. So people can get to Children's Champions Kids Camp.org and they can help support that. And then, working with Champions Kids Camp, they'll maybe do something themselves, Bill, in their community to help people.
You never know, because in every city in America and in the world, actually, there are children that have been through this kind of trauma, especially with the drug thing being so huge now. Parents, I'm telling you guys, I've had the children at our camp that their parents just OD'd on drugs at the house. They're dead in the living room floor, and the child finds his dad or his mom or whatever. It's just so egregious. It's so selfish to think of yourself. Once you have a child, in my opinion, you're no longer your own boss. And I say they're not your boss, but they should be God, family, and country. It should be in that order. And that's what I believe. And we still supposedly have freedom of speech. So I hope they don't get me for saying God first, family second, and business third. But man, we need God back in this country.
Well, Bill, I think in the second next week when there was a little song somebody wrote, I don't know, "In God We Still Trust" or something, or some song like that.
John, he has a way of picking your brain like this.
Well, we'll be discussing a lot for next week's show too. So, hey, Bill, I want to thank you for today's show and Keith as well. And this has been phenomenal. But we got a lot more to talk about in next week's show. So, for now, this is John Solleder, host of Leaving Nothing to Chance. We air every Tuesday on, even at Christmas, even at New Year's, even at Thanksgiving. Leaving Nothing to Chance. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, and of course you can always go to the archives of leavingnothingtochance.com. So these shows live forever. And Bill, we're going to bring you back for next week.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Leave Nothing to Chance. If you want to know more about what it takes to succeed in the network marketing space, join us again next week for another amazing episode. For additional resources and to connect with John Solleder, visit leavingnothingtochance.com. Don't forget to leave a review, and we'll see you next time.